Hey guys, so today we're going to look at the feint run, more specifically how the dribbling foot feints as Messi dribbles. So let's begin with playing this clip. So as Messi, dribbles, a lot of times it's not just a simple like touch and step, like a straightforward as you go in a straight line. You kind of see, how as Messi comes like this. You notice his body like shifting left and right with his shoulder dropping. So last time in a couple of videos ago, I was talking about how Messi takes his non-dribbling foot, in this case his right foot. It kind of like protrudes out and does a slight crisscross. It doesn't stay too much out. So kind of here, like he kind of drops his shoulder like so, and then almost has his like knee pointed out, his foot ankle pointed out, and it can crisscross a bit more or a bit out, but I find it's more natural just to keep your like foot out there if you're not worried about that. But Messi generally keeps it a bit more in. So yeah, here's it illustrates a bit more clearer. See, Messi's shoulder kind of drops, his body's turned a little bit to the right, and you kind of see his foot kind of like pointed to the outside with more towards the middle of his body. Now, when I notice how Messi hits it with his dribbling foot, or even when he takes a step, you see a lot of times when he takes a step, it's kind of the same thing. A lot of times, sometimes his foot is pointed out, especially if he hasn't touched the ball. But even when he touches the ball, I see like his foot does turn as he hits it, and you can kind of see there's the shape. See, it's kind of like bent this way, which I find a little peculiar. And you kind of notice like, well, I'll get into this a bit more, but like you see his body's kind of turned this way. It's not like his shoulders drop. You see his shoulders are still slightly turned to the right rather than the left, but you kind of notice, you see the number 10, it kind of like turns over after he like lands on his left foot. And you kind of see his torso like almost angled this way, rather than, even though his shoulders aren't like, tilted this way. So what I first worked on is, as Messi touches the ball, I noticed like a lot of times he kind of lands on his pinky toes. So as he comes here like this, you see how his foot is kind of like angled more towards the outside and the pinky toe. So a lot of times I find he kind of lands like not really flat-footed or like in the middle of his toe. It's kind of like more of his pinky toe, and I think that kind of can help like do like a slight feint as you dribble with your dribbling foot. I kind of naturally do this sometimes if the finish is really pressing me, but not this way, like with this like having this really like efficient kind of feint as onto your dribbling foot as you do this kind of run. So here's one of my attempts at trying to do this feint run with keeping this dribbling foot of mine and trying to land on my pinky toe. So as I approach the ball, just like before, like having my foot more crossed in towards the middle of my body like this, my non-dribbling foot that is. And then as I come and hit the ball, to turn my ankle as so, and then try to land on my pinky toe. Now, here's the main difference. You see like my leg shape here like this, and to Messi, it's fairly similar. But again, it's this body like turned kind of angled this way. My body like it's kind of more angled, still over to the right, almost like keeping like as it was with the initial shoulder drop. So in the next like attempt, I realized I'd probably well, at first like I attempt to try to twist my hips, but but more than that, I'm trying to like also kind of tilt my whole body, maybe lean forward a bit slightly to help, but kind of like tilt my body sideways like this, kind of lean over to my left. So another thing I want to point out is, as Messi touches the ball, you see like when he comes over here, you see like it's still in the air, it doesn't chop right down or like push like this. It kind of like goes back slightly and kind of cradles the ball, and then like it turns kind of in midair. So it's kind of like a controlled touch. It's not really abrupt and like comes down. Like it gives him enough time to kind of turn his ankle, land on his like, I think it's like a pinky toe or at the outside of his boot, so he can look to a side feint. And then later, what you'll see, his body will follow suit. His body does turn this way, but also tilts over to the side to do a slight feint. And here's my attempt with me doing the aforementioned steps, but also making sure when I, turn my hips with my dribbling foot, I also tilt my body to the left. So as I approach the ball here, again, dropping that shoulder, turning my hip to the right when I land on my non-dribbling foot. And then as I come here, cradle the ball, turn midair, and then like land on my kind of pinky toe and like protrude almost like my knee comes out. But you see here this time my body's like kind of tilted to the left, so it gives a slight shoulder drop. So you can see the similar shape as Messi. So both like our knees are kind of like pointed out this way, even though our feet maybe slightly pointed to the left or even straight ahead. And then here is where I corrected, like having my body tilted to the left. So I'm kind of satisfied with that Feint Run so far. So I'm gonna test it out in training and pickup matches and even 11 matches, and test at different tempos and like combinations. For example, I might do a shallow feint, doing the feint run with my non-dribbling foot a couple times, and as I come to the defender, then drop my up to do it the other way with my dribbling foot, and whether that leads to a feint or an inside cut, or maybe a maybe a quick like double feint, we'll see. But I think it's useful here is because normally you can feint with your non-dribbling foot. So this is Eden Hazard. I'll look at the clip in a bit, but traditionally I found it was really easy like to feint because normally you stick your like non-dribbling foot out and you kind of like fall on it, and then you can drop your shoulder. But here, like your feet are close together, you kind of just want to like almost wobble your torso and your shoulders. So I think it gives a bit more control. And what's more here is you see Eden Hazard. A lot of times he has like similar moves to Messi, but I find it's like a lot more jittery. Like he has to use a lot more pace and like changing direction. I find Messi has like a lot more control of the ball. So, in my opinion, I think that maybe that's the reason why Eden Hazard has gotten injured a lot of the few years. It's like it's not as controlled, so he has to like like change pace like left and right rather than kind of like bait the defender and like taking his time like Messi does, and like using efficient movements rather than panicking and trying to find the opening until you go one way. So here's Eden Hazard doing a feint and then a step over. So as Eden Hazard Eden Hazard takes like a step there. It's kind of like a shoulder drop, a slight one. So it's kind of reminiscent of Messi. But you see here, like he takes a touch with the inside of his boot. Again, see another feint there, and then a step over as you saw here. So like you said again, after the touch, it's a feint and then a step over. So it's similar to, I think, to the feint run of Messi, where you like kind of drop your foot on your non-dribbling foot first, and then in this case, Eden Hazard does a step over, and then you see it kind of looks like that other shoulder drops. But in my opinion, this kind of has less control because as soon as you put your foot there, the defender gets like a decent read or gets close enough to you. He knows like there's a brief moment of time you can't really move your foot. At least like if you want to go over this, so you have to bring your foot back again. So it's not as controlled. Whereas Messi is like his foot's still like over here, so he can still like take a touch to the outside or take an inside cut while still effectively trying to do the same kind of like feinting with the dribbling foot.